Good morning, everybody. This is Cliff London here, and it's nice to be making a video again. Let me adjust my seat. I've been spending time with the wife and basically goofing around and shit, kind of like a bit of a last hurrah because we're trying to get pregnant. But anyway, that's another subject. But anyway, went to see a good concert, dealing with change at work. Saw Fits in the Tantrums, by the way. Anyway, and we're having a good time, but that shit ends soon because we got to start getting serious and saving money and shit. So, anyway, the topic of today's video is I'm probably going to talk about maybe two of these topics, but the first one is I just want to talk about as a concept because it's something I actually neglected. Well, not neglected, but was kind of putting off making this video because of the subject matter, but I'm just going to put this out here like this anyway and say that I believe that most rapper death, I shouldn't even say most rappers death. I'm going to say, and this is probably a conversation that some black folk don't want to have, but I don't care because I'm tired of the response every time one of these guys gets shot, and it's time to bring up a different thought process on it. So I'm going to say it like this. I was thinking about a guy who I was thinking about Tupac the other day because of some other rapper's death, and I remember where I was when Tupac died, and I mean I was in college, I was at a party, and my dad called me and said, "Boy, that Tupac person you like died." It was and I was just like, I was having a belated birthday party, and I remember I was floored. I mean, he was back then, he was my favorite rapper, and at the time I saw it as tragic, and which I still do, of course I do. But what I did see, I saw him as a victim, as someone who did the best he could in life with the hand that he was dealt. As I got older in life and went through my own trials and tribulations, and one, moving to Chicago, put a lot of things into perspective as well. But as much as I still love Tupac, I also look back now on him, at my age now, as a young man who made bad choices. Yes, there are a lot of outside components. Yes, that, things in the neighborhoods and stuff that contributed to who he was. But that's the other issue. The main crux here is that I'm going to say that there was no bigger cause of his death and other rappers' death. The true fault lies with black people, us. And I'm going to explain that. But I'm going to say it again. Most of these rappers' death, that blood is actually on our hands by our taste and our demands, meaning that, Tupac was never a gangster rapper. Neither was Diddy. I don't know why I quoted when I said Diddy. Well, yeah, Diddy. It's one of the stupidest rap names ever. Anyways, they were never gangsters, but in order to get street cred, they were hiring Crips as bodyguards and getting caught up in this, just trying to represent and have street cred. And it's not something that they were. Tupac went to a performing arts high school. He took dance and theater classes. And why couldn't that be his story? Which gets to my point to why it's black people's fault. That couldn't be a story because then he would be considered soft. He was only taken seriously. People would have only taken him seriously if he had some kind of street cred, if he was tortured somehow, if he was in trouble with the police. But if you weren't that, because I remember when when rap was just stuff like, more like happy party music, like Kid and Play. You had stuff like, the first rap album I owned was LL Cool J, Bigger and Deffer. You had stuff like that. And it was more like LL Cool J never came off, even that first album, as a gangster. It was more just an individual of like who he was. This is how rap was. And then when gangster rap came in, and I'll point out also that the only one in NWA who actually had a criminal record is Ren, I believe. I might have that wrong. Correct me in the comments if I have that wrong. I'm just going off the top here and stuff that I've read. But again, why is it glorified within our culture? Why, and I'm just really, why is this type of thing glorified? Especially in our entertainment. Especially when when you have white rappers, when they emulate it. That in general, I know that in art most of the time, and I know in general most people, you define your reality by your amount of suffering. That's why that's why people say, oh, born with a silver spoon in your mouth, or you had it easy. It's, you don't know shit about life. It's because most people define their reality by how much they've suffered. Okay. And I think maybe there's a little bit of that there, which gives a lot of hip hop artists credibility. Like, you have to have some kind of struggle. That's why a lot of people consider Will Smith soft, because basically the dude is rapping about how great his life has been. It's better now because rap is not so gangster oriented. And I'm going to talk about that as well, because anyway, back to my original point, that I'm saying that this need in general of the black community to glorify a hard lifestyle or a thuggery lifestyle, it's not as much as it was in the 90s. It's kind of, well, actually, no, they're still following the fake gangsters. A lot of these guys that are in the studio now are just studio gangsters. There's a book called Original Gangsters that you all should check out. And it's written by this guy, wonderful, that he's done his research, and he talks about how, like, for example, Dr. Dre was just a music nerd into music. I don't believe all the people that said he was gay and stuff. I just think that he was more of a dude that loved music, and he was being eccentric. I went to performing arts high school myself. There's a big difference between eccentricity. It's just some shit that, black folks say that's very fucking ignorant and stupid. It makes it seem stupid, But yeah, victimhood. If they weren't a victim, people do it with that guy, and he is annoying. Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson. They always make a comment about his roots and stuff. What the fuck does that matter? It shouldn't matter, because you can't wash your skin color off, so you're black no matter what. So it shouldn't. Not only that, again, they're casting him in a role of saying that you are black, you have to think this way, and it's why you have all these white folks that if you're not shucking and jiving and sagging your pants and stuff, or if you talk with proper grammar, they want to tell you that, oh, you're so white. Or if you listen to different types of music, or if you're into different things. But it's like, well, no, you can be into that and relate to them, and relate to yourself as well, and have your personal quirks. I don't understand why people say, because you are black, you have to be into this. It's like limiting. It's like stereotype. It's like stereotyping yourself, and then getting upset when people stereotype you as that. For example, you don't want a white person to come up just because you're tall and black and say, "Oh, you'd be really good at basketball," But then you meet a black person that's 6'5" and doesn't like basketball. He prefers golf. All of a sudden, he's trying to be white, but maybe he just likes golf. It's his, it's crazy, because there's the stereotype breaking thing. You should let him be the being that he is, instead of trying to have him be the being that you want him to be. And this is something that blacks do to each other. We choke ourselves with this hive mentality. Always punishing one who thinks different or acts differently, and you feel pressured. And that's my whole point. These guys in the 90s, especially at East Coast, West Coast, you had they were really pressured. You had to have a street story. You couldn't have shit like, your rhymes couldn't be like you had perfect attendance, got straight A's, and didn't have to sell weed because you got a scholarship to college. All this stuff, they don't rap about that. That's considered soft, right? But really, it would be something that if you lived in the same area and came up like some of these guys, the real guys came up like Ghetto Boys and stuff like that, you're actually triumphant for being who you are in the midst of all that, chaos. I mean, you didn't fall in with the crowd, you didn't separate, you still have choice no matter what it is. You hear this stuff all the time. Oh, didn't have a father figure at home. And granted, it is shit without a father figure at home, but you still have choice. You still have individual choice. You know right from wrong from the age of 10 or 11. The white man himself doesn't make you choose, especially this day and age. You don't have to go into this street style. You don't have to. It is not as bad as it is in the 60s. I know a lot of the pro-blackity blacks try to make it that way. But, if you happen to stumble upon this video and you're a young person, don't believe that shit for a second, because you will get further in life if you think positively. If you see yourself as a victim, and if you feel like something should be handed to you because of some shit that you weren't around for, you're just kind of choking yourself because it'll bleed out of you like an aura. But if you project confidence and conviction and see yourself as the equal and not always vying for their attention and approval, it's like when these pro-blacks say, if you criticize black people, first thing that comes out of their mouth is, well, then white people do it too. They don't understand that they're the ones that are really cooning because they're still holding blacks to a standard of what whites think of them. It's okay for us to do it because it's good enough for the whites, therefore it being good enough for us. You hear this shit all the time. They don't say it like that, but that's what they're saying when they say, i.e., white people do it too. If I say, it's always a black person that does X, or it's always a black person, insert here. Why do we as black people do insert here? First thing to say, well, white people do it too. Your point? There's more white people in America than anything. So actually, probably, in the entire country, people probably commit more crimes because there's more of them. That's not, that's not the issue here. We shouldn't be judging our community by what they do. We should be focusing on a cultural renaissance. Focusing on why is it that thugs are worshipped? Why is it that stuff like that? I mean, I'm not saying I'm above it. I'm putting myself there too. I find myself doing it, I went through the time in my life where I had the twisted up bandana and shit, where I used to, but really the reality of it was that, I grew up difficult, from back home life, but I wasn't a gang member. And I never was. I mean, there was one point where I remember when I was like in middle school where I watched these kids across the street beating the fuck out of this guy, and they were saying that he was getting jumped in. He was getting jumped in to the Latin counts, and one of my friends was thinking about getting jumped in to the Latin counts, meaning that I don't know if you're unfamiliar with the term being jumped in. Used to use that in the early 90s, meaning you get your ass fucking kicked and then they hug you after. Now you're initiated into their gang, which is usually broke as fuck, by the way. I remember all these, all those kids and shit that would take people's British Knights and these little fucks. They were supposed to be gangsters. I got tired of their ass. I used to take fucking shit like skate tool and pocket knives to school with me because I was going to fight these motherfuckers. They weren't taking my goddamn British Knights anyways. They were always broke and nickel and diming and shit. $5 bag or $10 bag, and they really didn't have no money. T-shirt always fucking dirty and shit. And I'm going, what was so cool about these dudes? These dudes were venerated and shit, but you was an Uncle Tom and shit. If I decided to go to rehearsal after school and work at a fucking fast food restaurant when I was in high school, and lived on my own and shit, and didn't hang out with they fucking ass, because it didn't entice me. I didn't feel the need to live up to a stereotype. And I think that more blacks need to think for themselves and realize that we are individuals. It doesn't matter what any black person says they're pro-black. It doesn't matter what any white person tells you that you have to be. You know, you're choking yourself when you stereotype that shit. You know, people at my job say stupid shit all the time. Like, well, I had to let the ghetto out. The fuck are you talking about? So you're defining yourself. Ghetto comes from the German word meaning poor. You say you had to let the peasant out. That type of mentality is a peasant mentality. Oh, I had to start acting like a peasant. I had to don't let the nigga out. Like you're proud of that. You shouldn't be proud of that. I believe the cultural renaissance should be as such that just individuality, no structure. You never hear stuff from white, but you never hear like these other people. Well, man, you don't hear. See here, I'm doing it now, but I'm gonna say it anyway. You don't see white folk. I'm doing it. Going, I'm gonna pull your white card. Oh, you don't know who Barry Manilow is? I'm pulling your white card. You don't know who fucking Nick Faldo is? I'm pulling your, white card. No, they don't do that. I don't even hear the Mexicans do it either. It's mainly blacks I hear do it. But yeah, it's like we're hurting ourselves, and I'm just saying, and all these things lead back to why I'm gonna say that these rappers, most of the time, it's blacks' fault. It's our own fault, because this is kind of what we expect of them, right? So we can mourn and pretend that some of them were greater than they actually were when they were alive. I mean, let's face it. So I know it might be too early to say, but some of these guys, doesn't take away the tragedy, and rest in peace, and my heart goes out to their families. But it doesn't really matter how you treat someone when they're dead. It matters how you treat them when they're alive. That's my point. So all these people, all of a sudden, they become a Nipsey Hussle fan when you weren't, want to cry, talk about how righteous the brother was. He's full of shit, most of you. All of you guys that, especially you fucking old, washed up rappers, and yeah, you got money, yeah, you got fame, whatever. It really, in the grand scheme of things, those are material things. What you guys should be worried about is your legacy and taking a look in the mirror. And I only mean a certain type. I mean these guys now that you hear out there like David Banner, and I'm not afraid, I'll say his name, I don't care. They talking about 2 types and 3 types of niggas and this, that, and the other, or all these guys, any of these guys that used to rap about and glorify the gang, thuggy, drug selling, pants sagging lifestyle, and now in their old age want to come off like they're some kind of fucking revolutionary. Fuck you. Fuck you. Because see, the culture has moved on. It's not so much gangster rap anymore. So now they want to prop themselves up on this fucking pedestal and talk about the struggle and shit when they profited off the struggle for fucking years. Fuck you. Fuck all of you washed up has-been fucking rappers that now think you're a revolutionary. First of all, why should we? That's another thing we do as a black community. Why do we care what these guys think? We should not be listening to fucking Kanye West for advice. These shouldn't be the people that we're listening to, and that's another thing. That's how we also stereotype ourselves. Our leaders, black leaders. When these idiots talk about black leaders, they're talking about like fucking athletes. Nothing wrong with being a fucking dope ass athlete, but I'm just saying that there are black men that graduated valedictorian and shit. There are scientists and shit that exist now, but yet when Black History Month comes along, they want to talk about old shit. We have black scholars and shit now. You have people like Larry Elder. You have people like Thomas Sowell. You have people like Colton Hughes. You have, you have these other great YouTubers that just by spirit and attitude alone are important just by their presence, even if you don't agree with what they're saying. But yet, we look at people like athletes, and then they start seeing themselves as, well, I had to start speaking up. Why should we give a fuck what you say? And why are you so presumptuous to think that what you say should matter? Because our dumbass gives them that power. We shouldn't be listening to them. Because they're just going to fall in line with what you want them to. It's like this whole thing with like Trump, for example. Like, okay, so we're going to go. He had the First Step program, which helps pull fucking black men out of prison and reunited them with their families. Okay? Okay, which is something that old rotund ass Ayanna Presley signed off on. All these. I mean, not Ayanna Presley. Kamala. I'm sorry. Retract that. Not Presley, but Kamala Harris was putting black men in prison for little piddly ass shit for like years and shit. Okay, so Trump starts letting them out. And I'm just saying, I'm not I'm not trying to say, go Trump right now. Just hear me out. And then he comes up with the historic funding of historically black colleges. I can't remember the exact number, but it was lots. And then people try to say, oh, well, he's just doing that to try to get the black vote. And that shit doesn't matter. Yeah, of course, that's what they're all doing. I mean, the point is getting the funds. That's what all these black people say. Well, what is he going to do for us? Well, here you go. Here's something. So you're getting that. Does he have to smile about it too? I mean, does he have to, give it to us and like it? And who's to say that he doesn't? Just going off what this media is just spinning this tale. But anyway, I don't want to get off the point here. Within our culture, there should be a change. There needs to be a change. And I don't even know where to start with that, and I'm going to say right now, as from the Gen X era, I'm going to blame our generation. Not enough of us, I'm not saying all, of course, but, working in a city like Chicago, I see the after product. If I was just going to do a hypothesis, out of 500, I see X. And it's not all bad, but for some reason, being a degenerate in the black community is still looked upon with praise. And then after you've been a degenerate and profited off a degenerate like these fucking has-been rappers do, then you're seen as a hero, you're venerated. For example, hey, I bought Doggy Style like everybody else, but Snoop Dogg, why the fuck are people listening to what this guy has to say about shit? You listen to his shit. I love Doggy Style. I'm just saying, but as far as a leader and someone in the black community to be looked upon and revered because later in his career he started a football league, you should not be clapping your hands for him starting another fucking thoroughbred factory. Now, I love football. Don't get me wrong. I love football, but I mean, shit. What we need is, you really want to impress me, start a fucking black math club or some shit, really. Those are the people that win in the end. Young business pioneers and shit like that. Because all you're showing them with football is get rich quick. Then if you get hurt, your life is, you get hurt, your life's over. Living like that. Trust me, I used to be a dancer, and the number one stress anytime I heard something, it was always there. Oh God. And anyway, but so yeah, it was positive. I guess it keeps them off the streets. Well, it keeps them off the street, but it also feeds into another stereotype. I never, every once in a while they put them on TV talking about, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I tell them to get their studies right too. Don't do what the fuck I did, man. Fuck you. And then you give them credit for the old Snoop, man. That's a hard brother. Man, what? Fuck pro-blackity blacks are so goddamn annoying. It's all this shit. And you're a coon and all this shit. And it's just your idiocy. You're the ones that are cooning because basically you're keeping the minstrel show stereotype alive. You're shucking and jiving. Every time you're at a club with your white friends and you extra black it up. Every time you're at a club and you start rapping to the song so everybody can hear you and they also, whatever, you're black it up. You might as well fucking bamboozle and be like, showtime. You might as well because you're right there with it. And you people that use that term are just uneducated about it. Because, I think some stupid ass YouTuber that wears all the beads and shit from Africa, thinks he's from Africa or some shit, was talking about, that he reclaimed the word and reused it. Black people need to quit doing that shit too. Just taking a word and changing the meaning of it, really it comes from ignorance. KKK used to hunt black men saying going coon hunting. And it don't matter how you try to change the meaning of the word or take power from the word, you still take an old white racist word and calling your own people that. But you're all fight the power and shit. But y'all aren't the fucking coos. It's amazing to me the amount of shit that just don't make sense with us as a people. There is no fucking logic, no rhyme or reason. And usually it comes down to some shit about how, well, white people did it, or they go back to where drugs were pumped in the community. But you know what? We've known that for years now. You know. But for years now, there are solutions that has been building a community center, which entails has what? A basketball court. So you keep them off the streets, yeah. Obama funded a new community center and his computers in there where they in turn probably surf the internet when they're not doing that. Basketball. Now I don't know. I'm just saying an example, but you know, come on. You know, I'm old enough to where I've seen it enough times. That's a community center. There's a few of them here in Chicago. I mean, well, you know, a couple of them here in my neighborhood, and the first and foremost thing that's on them is a basketball court. And you can walk by and you can see the little dusty computer room with very little students in there. So I don't know what they're doing at these places, but again, you know, I'm going to tell Jericho Green that I think Chicago dupes California in stupidity, by the way. We got Lori Lightfoot, so there you go. But again, here we back are at the original thing. Us. We do more to harm ourselves than any white person ever could. Because we've decided to adopt these degenerate things in our culture. You know, when you stereotype about, oh, because you see a black man, you know, you think we're going to steal, you think we're going to rob you or something. Well, if that happens to people, or if you venerate it, I mean, you know, Biggie, part of his lore is he had to sell drugs to support his daughter. You know, oh, that was his only choice. You know, couldn't get a job. You know, no, it wasn't your only choice, Biggie. You know, it wasn't his only choice. He chose that. Let's be real here. You know right from wrong. You know what you have to do. You know the dangers. You know that you could possibly go to jail. And if you go to jail, you're not there for your child at all. But again, I guess if he's rapping about working at Target to support his daughter and having to apply for food stamps to support his daughter, and how in the end she got a scholarship to college, and that he raps about going to hear a commencement speech because she's valedictorian, and she talks about how her dad was a hero and how he worked 2 jobs to support her. But I guess if he doesn't have that, I guess that's not cool, right? He has to have that. He had to have that I sold drugs story. You see what my point here? He had to have that I sold drugs story. And that's what's wrong with us as a culture. We worship thuggery. I can't extend myself. I could, in a way, say that I don't do that, but I can't say that I haven't done it in the past. But I can say I've changed, and even the music of then doesn't affect me the same anymore because, well, we all change, you know, we're different people, and you can see the difference between, you know, a man who, when he was 25, was involved in shit that he just shouldn't have been involved in. He was a great talent. And I know that you could blame his mother, if any. You could blame his father for not being around. But who says that? I believe that if they had stayed together, see, they failed him. And you could say whatever you want about however they split or whatever, but you can still be involved in shit. And you know, off the Strictly for My Niggas album, it's a song called Papa Song, where Tupac raps about how the dude wasn't around. You know, then he shows up after he's dead crying and shit. You know, instead of patting that dude on the back, Tupac's dad, I think if people started going, man, you know what, man, if you were around, you know, maybe he'd still be, you know, with us. And another thing I will say, there is a glimpse of hope, because I don't like a lot of this stuff is not really resembling hip hop to me, a lot of this newer stuff, but it's non gangster related, and it's more poetic, more what they used to call conscious rap. It's more like that, you know, like you know, Common. Hopefully we'll see a new version of shit like De La Soul, where the emphasis is really on lyrics. Because let's face it, that's what the crux of hip hop is the lyrics, you know, and you could put whatever beat and shit around it, but I guess to me anyway, nowadays a lot of people don't have to rap anymore. You can just come up with a hook and put a beat over it and say very little, and people like that shit. But that's not how it all is, you know. I can't be, you know, I know there's a lot of, you know, cool newer shit out there too. I usually let my Spotify notify me of it, and I give it a listen, and if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. And sometimes there are others. Now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that all these guys, none of these guys were the real deal. And the ones that are the real deal and really went through a metamorphosis in life, and you know, and got their shit together to where they put out this great music, and it's about their life. But see, that's again, that shit is just intoxicating, and if the shit is real, it's just going to get into you anyway, and you're going to like it regardless if it's really good. Like there's a song by Freddie Gibbs I was listening to that I really fucking like, and it's a really fucking thuggy gangster song, but I dig it. And I haven't done my research. I don't know if he, you know, is real deal or a studio. I don't fucking know. But the song really thumped with me. So there's that part of me too. Like I say, I'm not saying I'm above. I'm saying I'm a victim of the programming as well. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm this and other blacks are this. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, why do we worship these fucking guys? And it's time for us to stop worshiping these fucking guys, and it's time for us to stop worshiping these fucking washed up ones. It really is fucking time. Please, let's quit worshiping these fucking idiots. Fucking get rid of these fucking grills. Get rid of this fucking bullshit, fake street life. Let's quit taking pride in this shit. Let's quit worshiping the fucking thuggery. Let's quit wearing these stupid fucking Scarface t-shirts. Chinese sell these fucking things around here like fucking hotcakes. He wasn't a good guy. Tony Montana is not a good fuck. He's not one of the fucking good guys. Al Pacino did a great job in a kick-ass role. But again, especially here in Chicago, they be having Al Capone t-shirts. What the fuck? He was not a good guy. And racist. So please, if you are a young couple and you're pregnant, even if you don't like the woman or you fall out of love, I understand this shit happens, but please, black dudes, stay there. Remain there. Move. If you gotta split up, stay in the same fucking neighborhood. Fight. Because now these motherfuckers are putting black men in dress, and I blame Billy Porter, fuck him, for it. You know, now everybody want to see a black man in drag and shit. Now black women are dressing like drag, like drag queens, but that's another video. But I've been talking for a long time. Again, I'm gonna say I'm gonna end this video, but I'm just gonna say that there needs to be a fucking black renaissance. It is time for us to take our destiny into our own hands and objectively, spiritually, as a people, reject this worship of thugs. You can admire someone who truly metamorphosized and changed, but let's stop worshiping the thugs. It's time. It's time that we realize, and you know, if some of you like that, that's fine. But it's time to realize and let the world know that our experiences are like everybody else. You know, we are a spectrum. You know, white men can be individuals. You know, you can have Da Vinci, you can have Picasso, you can have Jackson Pollock, all these different personalities, but blacks, we all have to be a collective. We all have to play basketball, like jazz music or rap music, and we like that shit because even one of us don't, we stereotype ourselves into submission. And I think that's bullshit. But like as I always say, just remember, and this is prevalent as I close, there is no fate but what we make for ourselves. My name is Cliff London. Fuck all you thugs and thug worshippers, grow up. Good morning, everybody. Have a good day.